Hello, it's Astrid again, and I wanted to make an update for a video that I made earlier. I think it was maybe a year or so ago about flex classes and designing a flex class on OutSchool. Now, this process can be a little tricky, especially for a newer teacher on OutSchool, but even for veteran teachers, because the policies for flex classes have changed over the years. So earlier this year in January 2021, OutSchool announced that they updated the language in their flex class policies to be a little bit more clear about what they're looking for in a flex class. And I thought I would go over that because my flex classes are pretty successful for me anyway. One of my flex classes, and well, maybe two of them, are my primary sources of income. And I see a lot of repeat learners that come that enroll in more of my flex classes and even in my live classes, starting off with the flex classes initially. So I wanted to share, my perspective and some of the ways that I have used these policies to be more successful in my flex classes. So if you wanted to read through this is on our blog, teach.outschool.com, and it's on the homepage. But if you wanted to look up the specific URL here, teach.outschool.com, I'll put the link in the comments. And there's also a link in this article to the support center here. So you'll click on that and it's going to take you to the support article on what is a flex class. So I shared this in the previous video, but they have updated it since then. So really what we want to think about is, what this is about. What is a flex class? And I think it's really helpful for me, at least, to think about this as, an offline version of a live class. Okay, so it's really more helpful to think of it as your live class, just not with a Zoom meeting, rather than thinking of it as a self-paced course, like maybe the ones that Udemy and Masterclass are, kind of known for, where it's a video, you pay for the videos, you get the videos, and now you get to keep the videos and you get to watch them at your own pace, and we never have to contact each other ever again if you don't want to. So that's a really different format. And if you're interested in teaching those types of classes, you're probably going to want to stick with those websites, okay? So I think it's really helpful for new teachers and for veteran teachers to remember that flex classes are not self-paced classes. They are not supposed to be video-based courses where you purchase the videos and you go on your merry way. Okay, so now we've got that out of the way. What is it actually? So it's a minimum of 4 weeks long. And I do find a lot of success with keeping them shorter to the 4 to 6 week length, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But they're a minimum of 4 weeks long, and there's a schedule. Week 1, you're going to be doing this together. Week 2, you're going to be doing this. Now we're moving to week 3, then we move to week 4. And so many teachers post their materials at the beginning of the week, maybe Sunday or Monday, and say, hey, welcome to week number 1. This is what we're going to talk about this week. This is your assignment. Now, the learners can complete that assignment at any time during the week. However, the ideal would be for them to finish it by the end of the week, because on Monday, for week 2, we're going to be posting the new week's materials. So there is a schedule that they are following. They're not going to be scheduling live time to meet with you, but they are scheduling a time to actually do these assignments. So it's really helpful because, if this was a video course, you could hang on to these videos for like a month and not actually watch them. And then, when you're ready, you can sit down and watch these videos, I do that all the time. I have like subscription to Craftsy and, got all this access to videos and I can watch them whenever I want. But with flex classes, we want there to be interaction. Now, when it comes to interactivity, that can be, I see a lot of comments from teachers that are saying, yeah, but my students don't want to interact. They just want the videos and then that's it. They don't really care about interacting with the other students. Well, to that, I'll ask you a question. If that was the case in a live class, what would you do? If you were teaching a live class and you had a student that, maybe they have their camera off, maybe they're not answering any of your questions, that would be challenging because we're expecting that interaction from them, right? And we're assuming that they're enrolling in this class so that they can interact, right? So what we normally would suggest in those situations as a teacher, probably you're going to pull out your bag of tricks, right? You're going to see if you can use the chat and, maybe send a private chat to the student. Hey, Lisa, I haven't heard from you in a minute. Is everything good? Let me know if you need me to repeat that last step. Maybe just kind of send them a little message there. Or maybe you can open up a whiteboard and say, okay, everyone, take out your drawing tools. Let's circle, Lisa, you're going to be blue. Charlie, you're going to be orange. And see if you, Charlie, see if you can find Italy on the map and circle it with your drawing annotation tools. I find that a lot of times, using these kinds of strategies in a live class will really draw them out. Maybe we can play with our filters, choose this filter, that's really fun, the little pizza hat or something, if you think the answer is A. So there's a lot of ways that I find in a live class to maybe hopefully draw out some of those students that are kind of hanging in the background. So with that in mind, we want to do the same thing with our flex classes, except of course, our bag of tricks is different, right? We don't have the same bag of tricks. We don't have the annotate tools. We don't have the live chat. We don't have the games that we can play in a live setting. But we are the ones initiating that, right? So in both of these situations, the teacher is the one initiating the help and saying, hey, how are you doing? Do you need help with this? Do you have any questions about it? What do you think about this? Can you tell me, what is your answer? So can we do that with a flex class? Absolutely. They are not self-paced, as we mentioned. They are not exactly the same as an existing live class, but teachers should create assignments and deadlines for learners to follow throughout the course. We really want to make sure that we're giving them the opportunity to interact. Now, of course, things can happen. Maybe, a lot of my students let me know, and let me tell you, they only let me know this because I'm like, hey, how are you doing? Hey, how's everyone doing this week? Something that I learned this week, blah, 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 and I'm initiating conversations in the classroom. And then they'll get back to me and say, oh yeah, we went camping this week, so I might be a little behind on my project. Is that okay? Yes, that's okay. I'm totally fine with that. Thank you for letting me know. But see, they only let me know because I initiated that conversation. So we really want to develop multiple opportunities for them. Really, it's really helpful to think about, different ways that we can interact and different ways that we can engage our learners in a flex class. It's not going to work the same for everybody, for every flex class. Some teachers find it really helpful to use Padlet, Jamboard, Flipgrid, or Kahoot, Nearpod. Some of the tools are really helpful for engaging and interacting with each other. And if you find that that's helpful too, there's lots of tools for you to take advantage of. Here's some ideas on how you can provide a high level of interaction, even though you're not face-to-face. And so I like this one. This is a great time to get creative. And really, that's your job. As a teacher on OutSchool teaching a flex class, that is what we're going to be doing. And if you're looking, again, for something that's more hands-off, that totally works for some people, right? I like some of those. I have a subscription, like I said, to Craftsy so that I can access these videos whenever I want. I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to look at anybody. I can just watch the videos on my own, pause it. I can take 3 months to learn how to crochet, which is probably enough time for me to learn like at least one thing. Oh boy, that process is slow for me. But hey, I can go back to that whenever I want to, right? I'm not looking for engagement, with the teacher, but in a flex class, we're looking for ways to engage with the students, engage with the teacher. So here's some ideas here. Incorporate project-based learning or collaborative learning projects. Lead discussions via posts in the classroom. So sometimes I do that. One time usually what I do for my sewing class, they're project-based. But around weeks 3 or 4, I noticed that the comments start to kind of slow down. In the beginning, everybody's like, yeah, this is so fun. Oh, I love your fabric, Madison. Oh my goodness, I see your kitten got in the picture. Oh, how fun. I have a cat too. And they're just chatting it up. Week 3 or 4, they're starting to dwindle a little bit. And this is one of the reasons why I usually keep my flex classes at 4 weeks now, or at the max 6, because I do notice that around week 4, week 5, the comments are fewer. So what I do is I schedule a post every time I teach this class. I schedule a post on, hey, I know sewing is hard. Please don't get discouraged. Let me know if you need any help. What I find helpful to do on my own, I like to, I have a picture of a sewing machine with candy in it, like stashed inside. And so I say, I set myself a goal. If I finish this sewing project, then I get to eat my M&Ms. And so I ask them, what's your favorite candy? What's your treat? What's your reward if you finish your sewing project this week? And I get a lot of comments from kids that are like, I like Skittles, and oh, Starburst would fit perfectly in that container. Thanks for the idea. So whatever you find, one of my son's teachers, a flex class teacher, she made a video of herself opening Pokemon trading cards because it was a Pokemon themed class. And she says, I've got a blind bag and I'm going to open up the card pack and see which cards I get. And boy, they love that. My son got really excited. He said, can we go to Dollar Tree and get some cards? He went and got some cards and he made a video of himself opening cards. And then the other student in the class, one of the other students did the same. So now they're interacting. So something like that could work. Have the students evaluate each other's work. Maybe that could work for some of the more academic subjects. Bring in additional tools or games. I use Nearpod a lot for my classes, and Padlet also is a fun one as well. And then, whatever else you can think of. One of the suggestions that the team will always suggest to you, it seems, is a scavenger hunt. And people are like, what's a scavenger hunt? And you don't have to use it, but what I do for my dance history class is that I give them clues. Can you find a dance by Martha Graham? Can you find the dance that Eleanor Powell did with her dog? Can you find that one and post the link below? Now, of course, that's on YouTube, and I do let them know they should do that with their parents' permission and things like that. Or you can have them do a scavenger hunt in their house, or for a specific plant or a picture outside, photography class, maybe you have a scavenger hunt for something too, like that. So however you want to do it, it's up to you. But just make sure that you are not, cutting your students short. Really, it's really exciting to be able to design a flex class because it's such a challenge. Now, this was one of my newer approved classes. It's actually my newest approved class, my tie-dye fiber arts course. And what I've done, this one actually does meet 6 weeks. Which is a longer one for me. But under the description, I mention the value. So remember that this is a lesson plan, but it's also an ad. So really, really elaborate on, what this is about, why you definitely want to pay for this, what is the benefit. How I like to do it is break down week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, and week 6. And then I explain how the videos work. I'm going to be, I have these videos where I discuss things, I demonstrate it here. In addition to that, there's extra vocabulary sheets and things. Actually, I mentioned in that during here that I have printable worksheets so they can learn the vocabulary and the science behind dyeing. So I really like to elaborate on, what subjects we're going to be talking about, because, sometimes people think, okay, tie-dye is just art and it's like this, fun activity. Well, this can also, maybe even fulfill some of their science needs. And then I also like to mention, that these are pre-recorded so that you can pause them, fast forward. So this is really helpful for parents to see. And then of course you can go into a detailed supply list. But I really like to go into detail about how they're going to interact. And this is what the team is also going to be looking for. So as we look at our lesson plan here, that the students are prompted to share photos. Now, we don't say that I'd love it if you, no, this is a requirement for the class. At the end of the week, you will post a picture in the classroom. Now, of course, you can't like go over there and force them to do this, right? But you are expecting them to. So you let them know that I'm expecting you to share a photo in the classroom and comment on their classmates' items. There will also be a printable overview worksheet with a short quiz on the dye science. So this is, kind of another opportunity for them to, do an activity, not just watch the video and post a picture. And then for the other one, again, this time I'm going to be using Nearpod. Now, Nearpod is really great because you can embed a lot of the interaction there. So that is one of the things that I like to incorporate for my interaction, because there's quizzes. The quiz is like a game that you can compare you can compare your score with other students, which is really fun. There's also like games where you can match things and fill in the blanks and stuff like that. So a lot of times that's an opportunity for them to engage. Like how many tries did it take you to get the matches? Oh, I did it in 8 moves. Oh, cool. I got it in 10, so the students can ideally, maybe compare with each other in the classroom. So I do like to use Nearpod for that. So there's different ways that you can do that. There are, for me, there's like a word search in one of mine. There's also an opportunity where they collaborate with one another by taking a poll and agreeing on a batik design. So this is going to really require them to actually communicate with me. And that's one thing that the OutSchool team would really like to see is like, for the students to feel like they are being asked to do this stuff. Otherwise, they may not do it. So anyways, these are just some ideas. Just to elaborate on that a little bit, for me and my experience with flex classes as a parent, my students, my kids, I have 3 kids that we unschool, and they've been taking flex classes since the beginning. So they've been taking them for a while. My oldest is 11, excuse me, and he likes them. He prefers the live classes because he's kind of a social butterfly, but he likes them because they are self-paced. And so I can say, do some school for today, and he's like, okay, let me go check in my flex classes. Now, if nobody has commented in there, he gets a little bit discouraged. And I know that as teachers, we cannot control how often the other students comment, right? But, sometimes maybe there's a little way here or there for us to engage in the comments. Or what I noticed is that what he really appreciated, we have this one teacher that we really love taking classes from, with specifically flex classes, because she always records a video, just a little quick video, naming him by name, specifically made that video just for him in the classroom. So if he comments and says, here's my assignment for the week, she writes back, great job, and then she attaches a little video that you can record right onto the page. There's a little paperclip icon in the classroom, and when you type out your comment, you'll see that there's a way to attach a photo or a video, but you can actually record the video directly from there. And so she'll record a little video. Oh, you did such a great job. This is what I really liked about your assignment. And giving him feedback on video. And I think that's really helpful, especially if you're going to be teaching some of the younger students too. Having them see that you can just do that instead of typing it out. Because if my 8-year-old, she's not comfortable typing out things, she doesn't do well with spelling, and it stresses her out a little bit. And so she knows she can record the video. So if she sees the teacher also recording videos and the other students are recording videos, all of a sudden I've noticed that when there was a flex class that was very busy, and my kids checked it every day to see, what the kids were posting in there. So when it is active like that, the kids do engage. Now, of course, like I said in the beginning, some of the students are just not looking for that type of engagement. And honestly, maybe they will learn that that's not really what the flex classes are about, right? Because the teacher keeps needling you for, why does the teacher keep telling me I need to engage with the class? Well, just like in a live class, we expect you to, participate in the class activities at your comfort level, so how do you want to engage with the class? Is it better for you to just post the picture and the comment? That's enough for me. That's okay. But if you'd like to engage a little bit more, how about we play a game together? Or how about we make videos together, or, videos to each other? So however you want to engage with your students is up to you. But we really do want to design our flex classes with the idea that we're initiating that engagement. And then if they choose not to engage back with us, it can be disappointing because we put in so much effort. But that's the way it goes sometimes. But, for those students that really love the engagement, it's super important to give them that opportunity. All right, well, I just wanted to share that update. I hope it was helpful to you. Just some tips on designing flex classes for 2021. The policies continue to get updated and changed because when we first started flex classes, goodness, I can't remember how it changed over time to be more interactive and how you couldn't use external platforms like Google Classroom or Canvas. Everything has to be contained onto the Flex into the OutSchool classroom. Lots of changes have come about. And I always mention that there was a time where they considered pulling them off the platform completely because the focus is on the live classes, and that's where they get the families joining. They're not joining for the flex classes. And I will say, flexible schedule classes are not like anything else out there. There's like almost nothing else that I can really think of. Maybe you can think of something, but I couldn't think of anything that was exactly like what OutSchool is trying to invent here. So yes, I know it can be a little frustrating because you might be thinking of it as more of a self-paced class, like a Udemy course or something like that. So try to stay away from thinking of it in that context. Try to instead think of it as a live class, where you would engage with your students and hope that they like it, and hope that they engage and join in the conversation and things. So try to think of it that way and try to communicate too with our OutSchool support team if you have questions, like if you have submitted a listing and it gets sent back to you, it feels like a rejection. But really, it's just because when the parents come to the platform, a lot of them are brand new to this idea too. They don't really know what this is about. They might be thinking that it is something like Craftsy or Masterclass or Udemy. And then they realize, oh, wait, it's not. This happens all the time where I just had a parent, she's a repeat, they were repeat learners from me that have taken many, many live classes, but they've never tried a flex class before. And she was confused about how it worked. Do we do it on the same schedule? Is it Monday when you post the materials? I have to do it on Monday? And I'm like, no. So we might have to do a little bit of explaining. This is how it works, and this is what I expect out of you for this course. So we'll be together for 4 weeks, and each week you're going to post this picture, and then I will respond to it. And then there's this worksheet that you can do, or there's this game that you can do, or there's this video you can watch, or there's a quiz that you can take. So there's other activities, and we're going to be talking to each other a lot. So, be prepared for that. So just keep in mind that some of the parents, some of the learners coming in and enrolling in flex classes may not understand it completely. So it's our jobs as teachers to show them how to interact and let them know that that's what we do expect out of the experience. All right, well, I hope that was helpful to you. Let me know in the comments if there's any other questions that pop up, and I hope that you enjoyed that. I'm going to put the link in there for our support article and the blog article as well. All right, well, happy teaching and good luck. Bye.